Well. Can you hear me? No? Yes, now we can. Good morning, folks. Thanks for bearing up and making your way down here eventually. This particular presentation has got a little bit to do with Papua New Guinea, just a teeny bit about it. But it's about 6 degrees of separation, and when you're actually doing certain things and how they turn into other things, and I was just saying yesterday or the day before, we met a passenger on the ship that we think was in the same RAF base as my father in Germany, of all places, and then he followed him to his next place and probably posted him to Sardinia, as far as we know. I'm desperately trying to get my kids to send us a photograph so I can show it to him, see if he definitely does recognize him. But what I'm going to do is show you this first TV program, which explains quite succinctly what this outcome of this story is all about. But then we're going to go back 4 or 5 years to actually show you how it all came about. So just take a wee look at this if it works. Switch the thing on, John. Hey.
Next, the story of an extraordinary journey for a high school ring and the family of a veteran who fought in World War II. Action News reporter Jeff Cherico has quite a tale.
It's my privilege and honor on behalf of my uncle John Hocknull to give this ring to Richard.
And with that, a class ring missing for more than 70 years finds its way home to the family of Army Sergeant Edward Dodds, who lost it while serving in the Second World War.
Unbelievable. It's a miracle. It really is.
A poor farmer named Liam considered it a prized possession after finding it in his garden in Papua New Guinea. He showed it to a visiting Australian lecturer, John Hocknull, whose niece lives in Woodbury, New Jersey.
He wasn't sure what it was, and asked my uncle if he could take a look at it and see if he recognized it.
Hocknull contacted Audubon High School officials last summer, who used the graduation year and initials to determine it was Dodds.
We went through a local telephone directory and looked to see if there were any who had a name ending in Dodds in this area.
Dodds' son Richard got the call. He says his father joked about the ring because the middle initial was wrong.
He kind of vaguely remembered him saying, how the hell would it have had the wrong initials anyway? So it wasn't something he certainly didn't dwell on the loss.
The ceremony honored Dodds' service and celebrated those who helped bring this family treasure home.
Nobody really knows how it ended up in the dirt in Liam's farm, but we got it back to its owner now.
As a way to thank Liam for giving up the ring, the Audubon Alumni Association collected donations to help send his children to school. If you'd like to contribute, you can contact the Alumni Association here at the high school. In Audubon, New Jersey, Jeff Cherico, Channel 6 Action News.
Well, oh. Okay, that was 2017. I forgot that was still up there. Never mind. That was on Australia Day 2017. And, but this is where the story really starts. I am proud of my Scottish heritage, and I found out that my family, ancient family, didn't have a tartan, so I decided to design a tartan. This was back in 1988, or before 1988. Before computers and the internet and everything else. So everything was done by hand and by mail. So eventually the people that were involved in the society approved this particular tartan. We had it all registered and everything, so it's now an official tartan in Scotland. So we went up to, you remember the Can We Help program? We went up to Port Moresby for the Can We Help program. And the NBC person invited me round to their place for a barbecue before we went up to Tari, and they invited their next door neighbour in to join the barbecue. And we're just sitting around chatting about things Scottish generally, and it turns out that this guy, this Papua New Guinean guy, plays the bagpipes. And he also plays the bagpipes on a TV advert for milk, a Highlands milk. So we just got into conversation with that, and he said, oh, how would you like to design a tartan for Papua New Guinea and for Port Moresby? And we said, oh, well, I've done it, I might as well. So again, back and forth, went to the various designs. The left-hand one is the Papua New Guinea tartan, on the right-hand one is the Port Moresby pipes and drums, and they're based on the colours of the PNG flag. For a couple of years, and the next thing that happens, we organised for one of the major companies up there to actually manufacture some of the tartan. So I thought, well, I'm going to try and get hold of some of this, and but in the meantime, let's make contact with the Royal Edinburgh Military Tattoo and see if we can get Papua New Guinea involved with the Royal Edinburgh Military Tattoo. And because when we'd lived in Darwin, we'd organised for the Singapore police ladies' pipes and drums to go from Singapore to Darwin to play in a big Highland ball that we organised. And the year later, we'd organised for the Singapore police ladies to play in the Edinburgh Military Tattoo. So we made contact with them, and they said, we'll think about it. And then the next thing that happens is the tattoo ends up in Melbourne. And that's not Melbourne, that's actually Edinburgh. But they had them in the Etihad Stadium in Melbourne. And the director of the tattoo said, look, I'd like to talk more about Papua New Guinea. Get down to Melbourne, we'll have a bite to eat and a chat about it. And he said, if you can organise for anybody else to come down from Papua New Guinea, we'd be pleased. So I quickly sent off emails to various places. And the next thing that happened, I got an email back from the CEO of the Papua New Guinea Chamber of Commerce in Port Moresby, who was a Scotsman who'd lived in Papua New Guinea for 35 years. And he said, I'm going to fly down to Melbourne, I'll see you down there, and we'll go to the tattoo together and try and organise for PNG to get into the tattoo. And during that conversation, I told him about the PNG tartan and everything else, and he made contact with the guy that had about 15 metres of tartan, and he convinced him to sell him a big chunk of tartan and had a kilt made in Brisbane. So the kilt was made in Brisbane, and he said, can you bring it? It's not drunk. Another G&T, please. Can you bring the kilt up with you the next time you come up? So we were presenting on the Pacific Jewel, so we got the kilt from the kilt maker and everything and brought it up. And he was in Port Moresby, but his daughter lives in Alatoa. So he said, all right, my daughter will take you for a drive around and have a bit of a visit that your average cruise passenger doesn't have. So we went off to various places, and we went to this little hut, and they showed me this ring, or Liam showed me this ring, and said, look, can you tell us what this is all about? So I took a whole pile of photographs, and it's dated 1938, obviously, and there's the EDD initials engraved in the inside. So being involved with fundraising in schools and alumni associations and all the other bits and pieces, when we got back to Brisbane, we did a bit of research and found out that the crest on the ring was from Audubon High School. Now, I don't know who Audubon is, but there's a lot of them in America. And I contacted various high schools, the different high schools, and then this is where the 6 degrees of separation really kicks in. This is where Audubon is, the star there. This is New Jersey. Philadelphia's on the other side of the river there. That's where Audubon High School is. So we got that. I made contact, sent emails to the principal, etc., etc. And this is a classroom for the local kids have. They've got a chalkboard on the wall, but that's about it. So having made contact with the high school, the next thing that happens, we're just about ready to leave to go on the Sun Princess and go up to Papua New Guinea again. And sure enough, just before we get on the ship, the president of the Alumni Association from the school made contact with us and said, we found the family that this ring belongs to. So I said, well, I don't know whether I'll be able to do anything about it, but we'll ask the question. So I got in touch with the guy in Port Moresby again, who got in touch with his daughter, who got in touch with her cousin, who then picked us up at the port and took us off to see the actual owner of the ring. And this is the house that he lives in Alito. It's right down on the beach, beautiful location. But this is Liam and his nephew and his sister. And so we went for a drive around. He said, oh, look, show us where you found this ring, Liam. So we took off. And what Liam had been doing, he constructed a house for his mother, and it was almost finished, but what he needed to do was to prepare a garden for her, so that when she moved into the house, she had something to eat. So he was preparing a garden, and this is exactly where he found the ring. He was just digging over the soil to plant some sugar or some yams or whatever, and up pops the ring. So I had a chat with him. I said, do you really want this? Papua New Guineans don't wear jewelry on their fingers. They might wear earrings, they'll wear necklaces, as you've seen, but they don't wear jewelry on their hands. And I said, do you really want to hang on to this? And I had a chat with him. He said, no, this is significant for the family. Please take it and see if you can get it back to the family in America. So he was quite happy to part with the ring. So we got back to Brisbane. More emails went back and forth. And the next thing we find out that the owner's son, Rich, this is where he lives, in a place called Runnymede. There's Audubon there, and the star below it is in Runnymede. So that's how close everything is. So we're on the Sun Princess, and we've been making the presentations, and this is what happened actually on the Sun Princess.
We are back, and again, we're very fortunate to have such an expert lecturer, John Hocknull. Your lecture and your wife's lectures have been absolutely fantastic.
Final one tomorrow.
I love that you actually had your wife talk about what it was like to be a wife.
Yes, well, women tend to get forgotten about at the beginning. It's just the guys go out and do all the macho stuff, and the women are back home and tend to be forgotten about. So we thought they needed at least some.
The other side of the
Well, I mean, I was out 15 days a month, up to 70 days, and she was there by herself. So, and sometimes very much by herself. Nobody else was there.
And she, today at 3:30 is going to be a talk, and that's Morag's talk, is that right?
That's her final talk.
But this is part 2 of the life of a wife of a patrol officer.
Yeah.
Now you made a wonderful find the other day. You showed it to me the other day, and I said, we need to get this on the Wage Show. Can we get a close-up of this? Is this possible, Ricky? Tell us what we're looking at here.
The last time that we went to Alito, a friend of ours took us for a drive, and she said, oh, my brother's found this ring. And I said, oh, well, okay, he's found a ring. When we went round to see Liam with the ring, he showed it to me, and I could immediately see that it was a graduation ring from either a university or a high school. On a closer inspection, it's actually from Audubon High School in New Jersey, and excuse me, it's dated 1938.
1938.
So this is the graduation ring of a young man, and the initials are inside the ring, EDD, and I took photographs of it the first time, and I tracked down where Audubon High School is in New Jersey. I sent an email through to the principal with the EDD engraving and everything on it, and he then handed that over. You know what Americans are like, the Alumni Association.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Well, this high school was started in 1926, so it's a very young high school at that time. And he sent the information on the Alumni Association. The Alumni Association then broadcast it out. I got an email just before we left Brisbane to say that the son of the EDD, who's Edward Dodds, is deceased, and his son is there, and he would be happy to have the ring back if possible as a family heirloom. So when we went into Alito this time, I made contact with Liam, the finder of the ring. He found it in 2013 whilst he was preparing a garden for his mother. He just built a house for his mother, and he was building a garden for his mother. And when he was just digging the ground to plant some sweet potato, I popped the ring.
He found this in the garden?
Yeah.
Just buried?
Yeah.
This ring came a long way to get here.
Well, we found out, just doing a bit of investigation, we found out that in that immediate area there was an American base, there was a rehabilitation hospital. On the waterfront there's a wharf, a small wharf there, and it's called Bethlehem Wharf. So I've got a bit of more research to do to find out exactly what the unit was. But I've emailed the son and I've said that I've got the ring. Liam said, no, just this ring must go back to the family. So I've got the ring now. When I go back to Brisbane, do a bit more research, get some addresses, and mail the ring off to Edward Dodds' family.
What an amazing journey this ring had taken.
Yeah.
Because of course he graduated in 1938. So he was a young man when he came out stationed here in Australia.
42, he would have been 42, 43, would only been
Early 20s.
Yeah, very good.
Early 20s. And then lost the ring,
Yeah.
and it's been buried. And, probably went home, a little bit upset he lost the ring. So he obviously didn't die in the war.
We don't know. We know that he's not alive now, but obviously if he's got older children, then he would have been able to survive the war, I would presume.
What a fascinating journey this thing has taken, and I'm so grateful you came on to share this with us. And it's so neat that it's going to go back to its
Back to the family.
That's fantastic, John. John, I'd like to thank you on behalf of everyone. We've had some wonderful, wonderful compliments on all of your talks and presentations, and it's just been an absolute pleasure having you on board with
I
us.
just thank everybody for all the assistance that they've given us, the production crew, yourself, the whole department here, accommodation people were brilliant, and more so the passengers. The other day, I told them about the legacy fund, the police legacy fund that I contribute to, and the passengers that had some keen employer that they'd thrown a draw at home. Well, they threw it into the hat, and we've got probably maybe 1,000 keen that actually thank the next time they're going to Hamilton for the legacy fund. So the partners and the children of deceased policemen will get an education. That's the object of the exercise.
Thank you all very much for your generosity.
Thank you.
And John, thank you again.
That's a pleasure.
All right.
Thank you, Dave.
We'll be back right after this. Stick around.
Oh, when I show this on Princess Cruises, Effie is the jeweler's shop, and when they advertise it in the magazine, they think I'm flogging jewellery. Oh, anyway, so immediately after that, the first thing that happened, we ended up with a big story in the local newspaper in Papua New Guinea. But then it went wild. It just went everywhere. There's all this media with the Daily Mail in the UK printed stories. These are all the various newspapers there's the Daily Mail online story that they did. So it got lots and lots and lots of coverage. And we were sitting at home saying, right, we've got to get this ring. As I said in that weight program story, we're just going to get the ring, post it to America. Easy, you think. So I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll post it to our niece. This is where our niece lives, on the star on the left there. So there's 10 minutes between her and the owner's family, and another 10 minutes between her and the school. This is 6 degrees of separation, getting really weird. So we thought, well, we'll post it off to Susan, and then she can hand deliver it to the guy, and everything will be perfectly okay. So, yes, enter USA Postal Service. On our pads, packets in Australia, they've got 4 little squares to put the postcode. So I thought, well, her postcode was 08095. I thought, oh, they don't need the 0. So I just put 8095 in the little boxes. It was addressed to New Jersey, and I mailed it away. It sat for 3 weeks in the Colorado Springs post office because a human being hadn't actually read the package. The computer had just, you know, the optics on the computer had seen the 8095, and off it went to Colorado. So eventually we tracked it down in Colorado, and eventually they decided to send it back to Woodbury. Now, Rick Dodds, you'll hear later on about Rick's father, where Rick's father worked, but Rick works in the post office in Runnymede. That's the central post office. So the ring would have gone from Colorado Springs into the Runnymede post office for sorting. There's a very, very good chance that this guy who it was going to actually handled the package, sending it on to my niece. So eventually she got to him. She rang him up and said, look, I'm going to come round and give you this ring. And Americans, being the suspicious lot that they are, he decided that, she said, where can I bring it to? So she's only 10 minutes away. He said, oh, I'll meet you on the corner of this street and that street. There's a car park there, and you can give me the ring there. She said, okay, not a problem. I'll see you there Saturday morning, 10:30 in this car park. So off she went. She drove into the car park, and there's a guy standing waiting for her. And it was the car park of the local police station. He didn't believe, he thought it was some sort of a con going on, and what he was going to do is, as soon as this bribery and corruption scandal was going to erupt, he was going to duck into the police station and say, get her, quick. But no, she handed over the ring to him, and he could see that it was a genuine thing. But they organised, again on Australia Day, to actually have a handover ceremony at the high school. This is Fox News.
Different continents connected by one ring. It belonged to a World War II veteran. He lost the ring decades ago.
Well, someone on the other side of the world found it. It's now back home on American soil, more specifically in South Jersey. Our Brad Satin was at the incredible reunion live in Audubon. Now, Brad, how cool is this?
It is very cool, and it's quite a story. You got to follow along with me here. We are at Audubon High School, where an alumni lost his class ring. The year was 1938 is when he graduated. He was in the South Pacific. He served in World War II. In recent years, a farmer on the other side of the world found this ring, and it took an amazing series of events to get it back home. Most of the seats were empty in Audubon High School's auditorium. The crowd was small, but the tale told was Herculean. It starts with this man, Edward Dodds, Audubon High School class of 1938. He joined the military during World War II, ended up in the South Pacific when he lost his class ring. It went missing for 73 years until a poor farmer named Liam was digging in his garden in Papua New Guinea and found it. It was gold, and he cherished it, but happened to meet an Australian by the name of John Hocknull, who convinced him to look for its rightful owner. In a strange coincidence, Hocknull's niece lives in South Jersey.
He took one look at the ring and knew exactly what it was. It had 1938 on one side, Audubon High School on the top, and the initials EDD on the inside.
Hocknull, from the other end of the world, connected with Audubon's Alumni Association, and the hunt was on, starting with a 1938 yearbook.
Took the initials and made the association between male, EDD, and found the only person he could fit was Edward Dodds.
They found 6 listings for Dodds in the phone book, including Rich Dodds.
He left me a brief message, and I thought, holy cow, are you kidding me?
Edward Dodds is Rich's father, who died 20 years ago. Today, in an official presentation with Rich's extended family there, he was given his father's ring. 92-year-old Matilda Canning is Rich's aunt.
You ever know there was a ring?
No, No, I didn't.
She does now. Her brother-in-law's ring is now back with the family thanks to a small group of strangers determined to get it home.
The people got together and they were just able to make that connection. It's a miracle.
Yeah, it is a miracle, especially considering the ring was initially made with the wrong middle initial. That was a strike against them. The other thing is, the first time it was mailed back to the United States, back to New Jersey, it somehow ended up in Colorado because of the wrong zip code. It's a good thing that the Postal Service got it right, because this World War II veteran had a long history. He worked for many years for the post office. Nancy, back to you.
Well, isn't that a coincidence?
So, I'm just, these little bits and pieces keep coming out in this story. And this, what happened was, I just through emails, they actually collected quite a bit of money for Liam, for his kids' education. And the president of the Alumni Association had looked at the catalogue. You know, they've got the alumni graduation catalogue. It's got, you know, drink coasters and rings and you name it, they sell it in America for graduation. So he looked down the catalogue and he said, oh, there's the graduation ring. We'll get a replacement graduation ring. And he looked down the list and it said $132 or something like that. So he said, all right, well, what we'll do is we'll buy a replacement graduation ring and get that made and then send that over. 2 days later, I got another email. He said, sorry, John, we want to give the money for the kids' education, but I made a mistake. I didn't look at the right-hand column, and the actual cost of the ring is $750 to get the graduation ring, and I don't think we can manage it. So I emailed him back and said, well, ask the people who make the stuff whether they'll donate one. And sure enough, they did. They made a brand new ring for Liam and at no cost. This Hef Jones, they're the company that make the graduation materials. Now, they actually ended up putting on the ring 2013, which was the year that Liam found the ring. But you can see the difference in style that's changed from 1938 to 2000, the really gaudy rings. And I say Papua New Guineans don't wear jewelry on their fingers. So we had this ring made, and then the president of the Alumni Association was saying, well, we don't want to have the same problems getting the ring back as we did getting it to America. So how are we going to manage that? Can we send it by courier? Can we send it by post? Rich Dodds works in the post office, and he basically said, don't trust us to do the right thing. So he said that we'll work on getting it back to Australia. Well, 6 degrees of separation kicks in again. The guy in the yellow shirt turns up, David Hunter. Now, David Hunter runs and owns 2 community newspapers in America. So that, you know, the throwaway papers you get in the letterbox. So he runs 2 community newspapers. And every fortnight he would go into the post office, into Runnymede Post Office, he'd see Rich Dodds and he'd write out a check for the postage for these community papers. So he's there and he's writing out a check. He said, oh, I'm going to pay you for a month instead of a fortnight. I said, well, why is that? He said, oh, I'm going away for a couple of weeks holiday. And so therefore I've got to pay for in advance for the next lot of mailings. He said, oh, yeah. He said, well, where are you going? He said, oh, I'm going to Australia. He said, you're not going to Brisbane, are you? Yes. So they got together with the president of the Alumni Association and they gave the ring to David Hunter to physically bring back to Brisbane. And this is where the printer lives. So they're all in this tight little area. So he's only, 5 minutes from the high school and 5 minutes from Rich Dodds. So David Hunter takes the ring and comes back to Brisbane. And he gave us a ring when he got back and said, oh, we're having a barbecue down on the Brisbane River for friends and everything, bit of a reunion. How'd you like to drop down if you can? We live 10 minutes from the Brisbane River. So we jumped in the car and went down, joined them for the barbecue, and David handed over the ring, ready for me to take back up to Papua New Guinea. And being the journalist that he is, he decided that he would have this story printed in his local newspapers so that he could then spread that out to all the people in the Audubon Runnymede area that he delivers these papers to. So the ring itself, as I say, it cost $750, and they put, as I say, on there, on the left-hand image there's 2013 when the ring was found. And this was, as I say, it's just totally out of the ordinary for Papua New Guinea for this sort of... In Papua New Guinea, decoration is called bilas. In pidgin English, it's bilas. So he's all bilassed up with his bling ring. So we were getting ready to take the ring back to Papua New Guinea, and we just happened to get asked by the Golden Princess to go on the cruise up there and to take it off. So we organised to have a little handover ceremony on the wharf with the captain and cruise director and the hotel manager. So everybody went down to get ready to see Liam. There's Liam coming down, and that's Liam's mother on the left there with him. Now, when they asked about the money for the kids' education and everything else, they collected a big chunk of change, really, to give to the kids. So I contacted Liam's sister, who then gave me Liam's mother's email address, and I emailed through to her and I said, what do the kids need for their education? So I said, oh, well, I thought that we're talking about 7 and 8 year olds, quite honestly. But they said, oh no, both the kids would like a laptop, and the daughter is going off to study business and tourism industry business and all the rest of it. So the next thing that happens is these are Liam's, who I thought, as I say, were 7 and 8 year olds. The guy with the hat in the far right-hand picture and the girl in the blue dress, that's his son and daughter. He does have other children, smaller children. But they came down and we handed over a couple of laptops and a whole pile of textbooks and everything for the young lass to learn resort business management and everything else. And I said, well, what about the rest of the money? And Liam's mum said, don't give it to Liam. Whatever you do, don't give it to Liam. He'll just spend it or give it away. Send it to me. So I organised to transfer over time. When she let me know that they needed school fees, uniforms, whatever it might happen to be, she said she needed 500 kina or 1,000 kina or whatever, I would then transfer that money into her bank account. She'd fix all that up, and then maybe 8-10 weeks later they needed books or pencils or whatever, so she'd let me know, and she needed another 500 kina, so I'd transfer that over. So she really looked after the money. She did a fabulous job. So we had this big handover ceremony with everybody, and we handed over the computers and books and everything first, and Liam didn't know that he was getting a replacement ring. So there we go, surprise, surprise. And yet, he really had no idea what he was going to do with this ring. His cousin and his sister saw the ring, and they immediately said, give it to me, I'll take it. And he said, no, you got to hang on to this, Liam, and make sure that you don't lose it. And in return, this is his cousin, the girl that started the whole thing off, and she gave us these bowls are traditional wooden bowls that they make in that particular area. So Liam was the toast of the day. The whole family were more than happy with the way things turned out. And again, back to the media. The next thing, we have all this media coverage back in Philadelphia and everything else. And we had America, Australia and Papua New Guinea all joined together in this one story. So that's basically the story. That it started with tartans and bagpipes and ended up on the beach in Alito giving this guy his ring back. And that's a very, very quick presentation, folks, very quick. But it just shows you how things fall into each other. I'm going to be making another presentation. I've been asked to make some more presentations. I'll be making another presentation a little later on called Nogo Tindiwali Igini, which is pigs, land, women and men, and it's the relationship that they all have with the pigs. Pigs are most important, then the land's most important, then the women come third, and the men, well, they control everything, other than some areas, which I'll show you some video footage of the areas where there's matrilineal societies, and the women are definitely in charge. But anyway, you've got an early mark, folks. Thanks very much indeed.